What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, presented as always by Pure Options, precision-crafted cannabis. Pure Options is here for you or the Michigan State football fan in your life. Or if you're feeling the other direction and you just want to ride the Lions high, Pure Options is here for you too. Go to pureoptions.com, check out location information, specials. You can download their app, get 20% off your next purchase, and join their Pure Perks loyalty program. I love it. I get all of my Pure Options experience right in my inbox. Deals, things that matter to me, where I'm located, all of that stuff. Again, pureoptions.com. And our Monday afternoon show, presented by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels. Let me tell you, this last Saturday was the ideal Muskox day. This is why Muskox is so great. I'm covering a Michigan State women's soccer NCAA tournament game at noon on a 50-degree day. Ooh. I don't want a jacket. I don't want to be in something too warm because I've got to walk over to Breslin Center and then I've got to cover a basketball game at night when it's 70. So I do the whole day in the same Muskox flannel. I'm comfortable. Nothing but comfort. Nothing but feeling cozy, feeling right. I wasn't too hot at the basketball game. Was feeling just right covering on a chilly day, covering soccer. Muskox is here for you for that. I mean, it just, you'll look good, you'll feel good. The quality is incredible. They are terrific environmental stewards as well. Muskox donates $5 to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center for every Muskox flannel purchase, and another $5 for our Muskox Hot Take of the Day, or Take of the Day, which we'll get to here in a little bit. And for Couch and the Rube listeners, $15 off your Muskox flannel purchase with the promo code Fix It in Post. All one word, Fix It in Post. And if you're starting to think about holiday gifts and things like that, nothing says you care about somebody more than a Muskox flannel. Jason, how you doing, brother? I mean, I felt all of Fred Human.
Iguna Yaba Gita Jared Goff. Go Lions, restore the roar.
What's up, buddy?
How you doing?
Beautiful bastard. By the way, teacups.org, if you want Christmas ornaments, just dropped this morning. So if you want a Santa Rube ornament on your tree, if you want, I think we have the regular Couch and the Rube, and then we have Appreciate You with a finger on it. So if you want one of those on your tree, sold two of them already this morning. So
awesome.
Appreciate everybody.
Anyway, I want Santa Rube on my tree. That's all.
That's what I was wondering. I was really nervous when we put those out because, like, what if no one buys one? Because I can understand not wanting, like, maybe you like the story, but then if your family comes over and sees the tree with my face on it, and it's like, what? You have to explain it.
It's a good question. I'll have to put it on the side of the tree Elizabeth doesn't see.
That's fine. I totally get that. As long as you buy one, you can put it wherever you want. You don't even have to put it on your tree if you don't want.
Right. It can be like one of those things at the bottom of the toilet that just
Speaking of, courtesy flush stickers, we'll give one of those with purchase as well, because we still have our Couch and the Rube stuff. If you want to order something for your loved one, maybe someone loves Couch and the Rube and they want a hoodie or something else, we have other things on there, and my wife also does other things as well on that website. Just go to teacups.org and check it out.
I wonder if we could get Muskox to do a Couch and the Rube flannel at some point at gomuskox.com.
I mean, Brad Hoos,
yeah, it would be pretty sweet. I don't know what that would look like.
He can come back on the show, give his hot takes. We can debut it. We can do the whole thing. I can see it in my mind already, but
yeah, it would be,
But I just thought it would be great. I mean, we were just sitting around and, T designed these things. We thought it'd be funny if people love the show and you can put it on your tree.
It's a great idea. All right, we have a lot of angst to get into, a lot of other things with our takes and yours today. I'll go first, Jason, just because you're going to be happy, and I don't think it's a good mix though. The Lions have been therapeutic. It's either the Pure Options or the Lions.
I don't know. Saturday, I was like, man, Monday show's going to suck. I mean, Escalade from And1 Mixtape was going to town on MSU at night because we had the T's son Justin fought Saturday night. So I saw most of the game, had to drive into town while the football game was going on. While we were at dinner, I'm watching the basketball game behind me. So I was like, oh, shit, Monday's show's going to blow. But thank God for the Lions. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. So, I'm going to start with football. Even I got a basketball one here in a minute, but I'm going to start football because it is like I get why people feel right as they do right now. There's a lot of just frustration and angst and worry that Jonathan Smith isn't it and all this stuff is not, because it has been years of muck, and this is more muck. And Sam Leavitt is off at Arizona State, about to take them to the college football playoff, which, I could have told you was coming with him. But Indiana's got a first-year coach and rolling, and MSU looks like the same program, without depth defensively to handle a full season or an offensive line to do anything. And if I'm in your shoes, it sucks. It's just not fun.
What about your shoes?
I don't mind it because I like mediocre football and good basketball. If I had to choose what to cover, I hate to tell people that, but that's I don't want any national writers poking around, and that's what happens when teams get good. No, I'm kidding. It's not entirely true. No, I would like to see the program have success again, because you don't want, first of all, you don't want to see people suffer, and you don't want to see apathy take over. But here's the thing. Jonathan Smith is going to be the coach for the foreseeable future. Yeah. And so I also don't get the point of just killing yourself with angst. Now, what we ask for on this show with takes and stuff, we're asking for your take on things. I'm not asking you to give a rosy sunshine picture of something you can't see, right? It is depressing to watch, and I get that. And I think the Illinois game in some ways was as depressing, maybe more so than any of them, just because it felt like a team that had sort of was resigned to where things were. But I do have to say, let's see what he does, because he's going to be the coach. It's a staff that much of the staff together got a Power 5 program going previously at Oregon State. Now, college football's changed a little bit. It's an offensive line coach, and Mahalchek and group that got an offensive line built and became a really good running. Like, they've done this before. And maybe it's not the exact situation. Maybe there's things that change. Maybe the Big Ten is tougher. Maybe there are some things they haven't done perfectly. Maybe the recruiting class number right now does not look all that inspiring, and I 100% get that. But let's see where it goes, because it's going to be them taking it where, you can, people can chant about, like, they should have done this, Urban Meyer would have done this. It's just not what is. It's just not healthy. And, Jonathan Smith in his press conference today talked a little bit about that he's not going to ask for patience. And he also, this hasn't been what they wanted this first year to be. Like, he sort of acknowledged that. And I think it's fair to be a little uneasy. And but I also think sort of giving up on the situation makes no sense, because number one, there's a chance you're going to be proven wrong, and number two, it's going to be what is. And so if you become like an anti-Jonathan Smith person, that becomes what you let your personality be, then you're just going to be miserable even if it goes well, perhaps. Yeah, and there's just no point in it. Like, I don't get what's the point of rooting for the team or caring about the program, and what did you think this year was going to be? Take Kirk Cignetti out of it. After last year, a lot of people were hoping for 6-6. There's still a chance at that. Now, Rutgers has played a couple of decent games, and I think that's going to be a fight in the last one. And who knows? They could lose against Purdue, and that would be.
About to say, is Purdue a gimme?
Nope, no gimmies for this team. No gimmies for this team. And so again, I'm not asking people to feel differently than they do. The recruiting class numbers are not inspiring. I want to see what the class looks like. I want to see what the transfer portal looks like and how they use it, who they bring in. I think the world is going to change a little bit when a lot of the NIL comes in-house next year, and how that's managed changes instantly. And I think Michigan State and a lot of other programs that are sort of in that 10 to 40 range of college football, not the Ohio States of the world, but certainly they will do well with that if they manage it well in-house, because they can afford it. Go ahead.
No, I when you said Jonathan Smith's quote about I'm not expecting patience, I thought I did not hear that. So I think that's brilliant. I'm hearing that for the first time from you, so I think that's great for him to say that, because I can understand the people that are saying fire Jonathan Smith. Do you really respect their opinion right now? But how can you give an opinion that if this is this way, if this program is in this situation right now a year from now, then I can understand Jonathan Smith isn't the guy, right? But you have to understand this coaching staff is kind of putting these players in a weird position sometimes on the field. 2 for 15 on third down on Saturday, and those still the long, slow developing short yardage plays. So I can understand fan frustration. And when you talk about, when you were even talking last week about, the recruiting and the NIL stuff, it can spark concern. It's understandable, because this program does not look great right now.
It does not.
But you do have to give them time, and I am okay with that. But you have to understand, when you watch that shit display against a Brett Bielema team and you lose that way, it's just annoying on Monday to come and sit here and go, we're going to be patient, and we're just going to go, hey, Purdue. All right, let's talk about Purdue. Like, no, like this is terrible football we're watching, and it isn't fun. And I don't think there's a problem with that. There's a small little 1% people that fire John Smith and all that dumb shit. But don't pay attention to those people.
Well, the idea that he isn't it. And there might be an adjustment for him.
But when like you said, you have Cignetti doing what he's doing at Indiana as a first-year guy, and it just looks like, shit isn't going right at Michigan State right now. So I can understand.
Yep, and Levitt, who, everybody thought,
that doesn't help either.
It doesn't help. Because,
what's Theo Day doing? Is he all right? Update on him.
He was in the 1AA level for a while. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not telling you to feel differently. This ain't great. There's still a chance they get to 6-6. Let's see where I do think Jonathan Smith talked about in his presser on Monday here that the momentum is important, and those practices are important. And this is the problem is the same thing I said about the basketball team a little bit ago with the Champions Classic and losing some of those games, even though the record's not as bad as the perception, but. Is that you can't blame the last couple of years everybody's like but you can't blame this group for previous groups' failures. Now Izzo, you can do what you want there, but with football,
don't coach my team.
How you feel about this football situation has something to do with last year. It compounds itself. There's no question. And the year before that, and so you're at a point where what the hell, man? Like I get that, and yet that's not their responsibility to fix what happened a year ago or 2 years ago in terms of how you feel about it, or to get their responsibility is to fix what is now and build it. And clearly the program's in a certain kind of shape where there's a long way to go. And the offensive line is I put this in my quick takes that I wrote from afar on Saturday. The offensive line is that should be the focus. That should be the NIL focus. Maybe it's a separate collective that you build around. Like you want to have a high floor and even a high ceiling in a program. Fix that every year. If you've got a good offensive line, you go through some years where your quarterback's not great. You have some injuries elsewhere, whatever it is. You've got some years you got two Nick Marsh, some years you got none. But if you build that and make that the staple of your program, you'll be fine. You'll be competitive, and people will be whining about 9-3 instead of whining about 4-8. And that's a better place to be.
9-3. We can't get into a college football playoff with that record.
There you go.
The hell's your problem?
All right, what's your first take?
Iffy, Ifantu Melifonwu, we freaking love you, man.
Big night.
Fuego, gracias, señor. Vamos, Lions.
Vamos, a ver, 1, 2, 3.
Vamos, Lions.
Hell yeah. Should have played this yesterday at Ford Field. Anyway, great game yesterday. I never thought in a million years, Graham, that my friends would look at me and go, hey, do you want to leave? Because it's a blowout and we're watching Hendon Hooker. And I'm like, I'm good either way. Because we hit all of our bets yesterday. By the way, were you scared of the 13.5 for real?
As soon as the game started, I was like, what was I doing? I went the other way.
When it was 3-0, though, you were kind of like,
this is why you want to be careful in these spots like this.
I hedged myself out of it pretty quick, and I made money. And it would have been a good day for like an escalator bet too. Like to have.
The lightning bet.
To have by 25, by 30, and keep going. Because you might have made a lot of money. I didn't do that, but that would be. But this Lions team might be worth looking at, especially against the lesser opponents.
It's just absolutely phenomenal being in that stadium when everybody doing the wave and everybody's going crazy and all that. But after the game, so then I'm talking MVP, NFL MVP stuff because we're bored in the game, right? So we're going like, well, Goff has to move up a couple spots. And everybody keeps bringing up this morning. I'm listening to Dan Patrick, and he goes, well, I think Goff would be higher in the MVP race if it wasn't for that 5-interception game against Houston. And I'm like, but he was the reason why they came back and won that game.
Yeah.
And I know Josh Allen, they beat the Chiefs yesterday. Mahomes was terrible, so he moves down the MVP rankings. And guess what? I usually never care about the NFL MVP rankings because we've never had a shot. I mean, I know Stafford put up video game numbers, but he was never going to get an MVP like a shot at winning it. So now we have a guy like Jared Goff. Now I feel like we have to kind of defend him because he's still plus 600. And I'm going to be sprinkling on that after the show because I just don't know why. I mean, Lamar Jackson plus 200 and Josh Allen plus 150. I mean, the disrespect here, I kind of enjoy it because when we turn on ESPN and all these shows, they're blowing us. So I kind of like a little bit of the disrespect. Dan Campbell, he's probably not going to get Coach of the Year because of Tomlin. So, I mean, part of me kind of likes a little bit that we're getting disrespected, but it is kind of curious that a guy, I understand that, he threw 5 picks against Houston, but we came back and won that game. The first time a quarterback's done that in how long? So I just don't think that you can fault him in the MVP race for that. So I still think that you get a little bit of value at 600 on Goff. But anyway, I don't know. It's just an insane day yesterday.
The starters in late is a little bit of a concern. Like, I don't know
starters in at any time is a concern.
Yeah.
Anytime a guy goes down, I mean, Anzalone, he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, but he'll come back for the playoffs healthy as ever. I mean, when you see Sewell, like some of these plays Ben Johnson calls up, I'm like, these are fantastic, man. I love you a lot. Like Tony D loves everything. But God damn it, can we not get Sewell out in space and have him flip over?
Let me ask you a question. Brian Branch.
Love him.
Right.
Love him more than my family. Most of them.
Would it be better to have him healthy and ready to go in the postseason, but have to play 3 games and at least one of them on the road? Or would it be better to not have him and have a bye and then 2 games at home?
I don't know. I'm confused. I just want him healthy for the playoffs.
Right. I'm just saying.
And a guy like Brian Branch wants to play. You can't tell a healthy Brian Branch, I know he's beat up. All these guys are beat up at this point in the year. But you can't tell Brian Branch, like, oh, we're going to sit there and save you. He's just a guy that's going to go out there and hit you no matter what. So a guy like him, I don't think so.
You know what I hate about it? And this will be my Lions take, and I'll do MSU basketball after that. But this is what I'm struggling to enjoy with the Lions, and I found it out yesterday because they're up. They're just dominating a game. They hadn't beat Jacksonville that nicely since 44-0 the year '95 when they could have won a Super Bowl if not for Yancey Thigpen dropping a pass, which then sent the Lions on the road to Philly in the first round of the playoffs, and things went wrong. That team had won 7
Do a shot,
straight.
Dominic.
Yep, there you go. Yep. Anyway, but it's like this is not the year where obviously the number 1 seed matters. Where this part of the journey is what it's about. The initial rise is over. It's about the Super Bowl. And so, I get these fears about them peaking too soon, about health, about, I still know there's going to be angsty moments. So no matter what happens against Jacksonville, and it's impressive, there are going to be angsty, dicey moments in the playoffs that are coming. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing that Sunday can do about it. And so it makes it hard to enjoy Sunday without pure options, which, by the way, if again.
Oh, that was flowing yesterday, yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Oh, man.
Anyway, that to me is the only thing with it. It's just one of those things where.
But you can't sit there and worry at every little thing. I know what you're saying, and I know you and Harry, I get the 13.5 because in an NFL game, giving that much lumber is crazy. But you guys following this team, I just don't know what Mac Jones on the road.
We're idiots, yeah.
That's what I just said. It's like, man, maybe they should take a week off.
No, we're idiots.
Gambling.
We're idiots. All right, anyway. MSU basketball. I really enjoyed the game more than fans.
Please guard somebody.
Part of it was, and I'll have a piece coming up Monday night, I think it's going up, on how teams scout Michigan State. So Bowling Green coach Todd Simon and Tum Tum Nairn, Todd Simon's from Fowler, from the area. Tum Tum Nairn obviously played at Michigan State. Sort of let me behind the scenes like Simon did, like 8 years ago or 7 years ago when his Southern Utah program played at Michigan State. And sort of how they look at the different Michigan State players, how they scout them, what they see in different guys, how they play them. Some of it's pretty obvious, but nonetheless, it's kind of fun to give people that look, and they're very nice to do that. So I'd gotten to spend a little bit of time with them. I had a feeling that they knew they could keep it close, and they knew they could give them some problems. And the Marcus Johnson guy is a lot of fun to watch. I will say to the Marcus Johnson, like there's a lot of stuff on Twitter, some love, like the world needs this guy in the NCAA tournament, like, and people are on why doesn't he wind up at Michigan State? He did turn, like when Carson Cooper had the ball on the block on the baseline, guarded by Marcus Johnson. Marcus Johnson single-handedly turned Carson Cooper into Akeem Olajuwon. So defensively, there are issues. Like I've never seen Carson Cooper look that amazing spinning baseline and finishing on a reverse layup with less resistance.
And if Johnson doesn't hit some of those shots, too, some of the dribbling he was doing, I mean, he would be benched immediately.
Well, no, and he was 23 points, although he's 1 for 11 for 3. He's a great shooter. He's a great player. He's a great offensive player, and you have to play at his pace. He could play at the high major level. You just don't want to play at a place where the program is built around defense. You probably don't want that to be, but any program that doesn't score enough to get into the NCAA tournament this year should have a guy like that. That's just dumb not to have him. But nonetheless, I thought it was an important game for Michigan State when everything was going wrong to rely on its defense and rebounding, and at the end to really, like the last 6+ minutes, Bowling Green didn't score after all that. Like, that was a real moment of poise. And what I want to see now is and I know they play Samford, which is going to be a wildly entertaining game Tuesday, and I'm not kidding about that. They play their coach, they call it Bucky Ball. It is high-flying, pressing. Like, if you got to pick one game to go to this non-conference season at Breslin, Tuesday night. Tuesday night's it. Samford's a fun team to watch. They were in the NCAA tournament last year, lost to Kansas by 4 in the first round as a 13 seed. Like, they are, and they got a lot of new players, same point guard. But it's so they're going to be fun to watch. But what you really need to see from MSU now is Maui. Like that, I'm so glad the schedule sets up the way it does, because Kansas was sort of,
because you're going to Maui.
Well, that too.
That's why you love it.
But Kansas sort of gave us this glimpse of, okay, they're in that realm. But how well did Kansas play? Neither team shot well. It's one game. Are they really? And the reason I love the Maui Invitational is Colorado's not supposed to be a great team, but it's still a high major team in the first game. They ought to win that. Like, that's a test. You ought to win that game. Because if you win that game, then it sets you up for likely UConn in round 2, and then in round 3, top 20 type teams in North Carolina, Iowa State, and Auburn. And regardless of what happens against UConn. And so you're going to see in a couple days how they react to high-level teams at different styles and where this team is. We are going to leave the Maui Invitational with a great sense of this Michigan State team, much better than we have right now. There's some things I like. There's some things I'm intrigued by. I think they can. I like covering them because they're different than they've been, and I think there's a lot of potential in certain guys. There's some things to be concerned about, certainly, as well. But I think we are just going to learn so much, and I'm grateful the schedule sets up that way, because I think if you don't have that, you can only play this sort of game where you're fending off and pulling away from decent low and mid majors for so long. You need these tests. I like that they're repeated, the back to back. Like I think all of these takes and all of these thoughts we have about Michigan State basketball are really sort of unfinished, and we'll have a great. Now, it doesn't mean they're finished growing, but we'll have a great sense of who they are and where they are, and who they can count on by the end of by Thanksgiving Day. And that's that.
So we'll have it all figured out by then. Cool.
Well, we'll know what they are now.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they can't grow into more, but yeah, we'll know. Is this team a legitimate team? Like, there's a chance that Michigan State will leave Maui, and we'll know this team has a chance to contend in the Big Ten. There's a chance that they'll leave Maui, and we'll think they are going to be fighting for an NCAA tournament berth, and it could be. That's what's sort of interesting with this.
Is Elizabeth going to Maui?
Of course.
Nice.
She doesn't.
Are you guys doing a couple days?
You were going early
around it.
We're going Thursday. So a little show update this week. We got 2 shows today and Wednesday, and then we are off through Thanksgiving because I'll be gone and just
So we'll have to check out Graham's Blue Sky to see how Maui is what he's saying.
What's your next take?
Well, Friday night, I decided to turn on the Netflix, the Tyson-Paul thing, and I felt kind of embarrassed, like, as it was buffering. I mean, the preliminary fights were fun to watch because I like boxing. Like I said, T-Son, Justin, he's a boxer, and we went Saturday night over here on the south side of Lansing to watch him fight, and he won, and it was awesome. But, like, the whole thing of, I wouldn't say I was getting fooled, because I feel like if you got fooled, you bought the pay-per-view. If it were like $70, like $5, you paid for it and you sat down and watched this horse shit. Like, oh, Mike Tyson, 58 years old. I saw this sparring video where it's the old Mike Tyson. Yeah, he almost died like last year. He had to have like blood transfusions. And shout out to Mike Tyson for getting $20 million for that shit show. But like, I should have known.
Having good ass cheeks.
That was unbelievable. Like, T and I, that's the one part that didn't buffer, of course, thank God, is all of a sudden he's talking to his son. I'm like, is that his kid? Like, what has happened? And he's in a locker room, and you all of a sudden turns around and it's just Tyson cheeks. And I'm like, what the fuck? Anyway, but we should have known as soon as he came out of like the back area to the ring and he's like stumbled. He looked like me on a Saturday night after 100 MGs, and I'd like catch my heel on on the floor. And I'm like, whoa, hey, oh, shit. You should have known right then and there you didn't need to watch anything. I didn't see 1 second of it because it was buffering. And
I couldn't get back in. I watched.
You had to get on your phone. They said, I'm like, fuck this. I'm like, I'm going to bed.
I'm on the treadmill, not surprisingly. And
No way.
Yeah. And, ducked out to watch the end of a Hallmark movie. And then I came back, and I was like, oh, the fight's about to start. And it just buffered for like 5 minutes. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to.
And like Rosie Perez was there. I know that she's watched boxing for a long time, but I mean, really, we have Rosie Perez and let's Cedric the Entertainer's there.
I watched an underrated 1990s rom-com recently. It Could Happen to You with Nicolas Cage and Rosie Perez.
Oh, dude,
man,
90s Rosie Perez.
And who was Bridget? Was
White
it Bridget?
Men Can't Jump.
Bridget Fonda back then. Oh my God! I tell you what.
Don't look up Bridget Fonda today. Like, don't look her up. What she looks like now.
I don't.
I mean, we age.
Yeah, if you looked
poorly.
at me, I'm not.
I understand,
yeah.
but it's really it'll make you depressed. But
I
don't feel like I got duped into it. But it was just kind of like next one of these things. I mean, unless he fights somebody, I don't know what to do with this Jake Paul dude. Anyway, I don't know. I know it's for the younger people anyway. But I'm just glad that it was because he could have really hurt Mike Tyson, and I think that he knows that, and that's why they didn't do that. But it's just all the pomp and circumstance and just, people trying to talk you into it was going to be a good fight. I love the guys in Vegas because they were basically, because I see updates of what some of the book guys are saying about the fight, and they're like, yeah, we need Jake Paul a lot tonight, but we're comfortable with that. Like they're before the fight even started. So Vegas was like, Tyson money was coming in. It was like free money for me.
I bet Jake Paul. It was
it
was like minus, when I got it was like
260.
Yeah, it was like minus 212. I think I got it. It was pretty good. I was like, you know what? This is. I'll throw.
Can I ask? I mean, do you place a sizable bet on that?
No,
because it would take $212 to get $100.
Right. I think what I did is I put like 106 to win 50 is what I did.
Okay.
And because it's still nice to have $50 off it. But
wouldn't that be one of those where you mortgage the house on?
I've lost too many of those where you mortgage the house. That's why
all of a sudden Tyson comes back just one punch.
Yeah, that's why.
Wait a minute. This wasn't in the script, Mike.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You don't want to. Yeah,
but Netflix, what scares me, though, is like, wait a minute. You guys have how many subscribers worldwide, and it's buffering. So what happens in a month when you guys have the NFL games? Well, because that's what I legit get pissed off and lose my shit.
Yeah, they're going to have to figure that out. And it does tell
want that.
It does tell you that they're a long way from Netflix being on a Super Bowl or having a Super Bowl because this sort of thing just can't.
Well, I would figure they would get their shit together and maybe test it out before. And maybe this was the giant test, but I just figured that they had enough subscribers worldwide already, but.
Do you have any more hot takes?
Nah, I'm done.
Okay.
Jimmy Carter's still alive in hospice.
Yeah, I was going to do one on the Pistons because they're just about 500. They wouldn't, but we have plenty of time to get into the. We'll have to get now that James is gone. I'm hoping. My hope for this year is that the Pistons.
We're dropping MFers now.
Well, we'll have to have Amari on from the Freak because Amari's terrific. But my hope is that James left to cover the Knicks and the Pistons wind up with a better record. And that all of that, he could have just stayed and covered a better team. That's.
I'm sure he sees the Pistons. He could talk about it still.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. We're not going to do Pistons today. There is not a single Pistons take from our listener takes, but we have many good ones. Let's dig in. You ready?
Eric Schultz up first. Number one, injuries are really starting to pile up for MSU football. That's a much closer game a month ago. 2, thank God Tom didn't bring in a 5 last year or a 4 this year. Whatever would MSU have done if either had led to Booker leaving? And 3, can't miss a bowl.
So quickly on the hoops part of that, I think the mistake was a year ago when Booker was a freshman and and maybe there were some promises made then, but Kohler and Cooper were sophomores because those guys just weren't as ready. Although I think they did think Kohler was closer to what he is now than if he hadn't gotten hurt, but still. I think they were more concerned about Kohler leaving because, that somebody's not from the area who'd been sort of waiting his turn and had the unfortunate injury. And that I mean, I think Kohler likes it. I don't think he wanted to, but I do think he's also pragmatic enough to see like if there was writing on the wall. So I think that was part of it. But yeah, fair point on this. Getting to a bowl game, I do think, is important. I've gone back and forth on this, on the idea of when you've got all that shit in December with recruiting and transfer portal and everything else that's happening, do you also want a bowl game? But I believe the signing day is earlier anyway. And I think for this program and for the guys who have been a part of a lot of mess, and Jonathan Smith actually alluded to this today, just guys who've stuck with the program, who are seniors, or have come to have that, to go somewhere and get to play in one more game, and to have a couple wins at the end of the year and feel that momentum, I think it would have some importance. And they're going to have to really earn it. Not only is, I think, no game a gimme for this team, including Purdue. Rutgers has had 2 good showings in a row and seems to be back after sort of some midseason struggles. I think that's a 50-50 game at best for Michigan State to end the season, so that'll be interesting.
Dominic next. Number 1, Graham cost me every single bet this weekend. All of my failed parlays are his fault. That is true. 2, Alan Haller doesn't believe in sports gambling, though. He'd rather eat Sunday dinner at the Harns house with special guest Tum Tum Nairn and thank Jesus that nobody died in Champaign. 3, outside of hockey, this athletic department is a joke. It's all stupid every single year. Nothing improves. It's just shit, and it leads by a fucking spineless statue of an AD. Deep donut voice of Graham saying, Nightingale was a Haller hire, Dominic. Bonus take. D'Antonio never brought in someone with fresh ideas. Izzo still doesn't embrace the transfer portal like he should. This football team is regressing, and this staff is giving me Barnett vibes. MSU is the 1997 Atlanta Hawks. They are Alex Hornibrook irrelevant.
Dominic, man, we need to get you a muskox flannel and some Pure Options just to wrap yourself in some comfort. And
I thought that was gift card.
No, it's no, but we yeah. I'm sorry, my man. That is this.
Why'd
is
you fuck up
depressing.
all his bets, man?
I didn't mean to. I don't know what.
Why'd you steer him the wrong way?
I didn't even think I did. I mean, there weren't even soccer
Bears
bets
money
we had
line
this weekend. This was one of those dumbass international breaks. Did I say Bears money line? I didn't say that. Yeah, no, I apologize. Dominic.
Back-to-back state volleyball champs, Dad. Number 1, MSU has the worst interior lines in the Power 4. They're not 14 points better than any Power 4 team. Sprinkle on Purdue Friday. And 2, you can complain about Booker, I guess, but I don't exactly understand what Fiddler brings. And 3, predicting a 7th-place finish in Maui. This team is mid at best.
Yeah, we're going to have to really get out the Pure Options here.
Oh, yeah.
This is just to get
grab
through
my
this
bag,
thing.
man.
Yeah, just to get through this thing. And Pure Options is not in Maine, unfortunately, for back-to-back state volleyball champs, Dads, who's in Gorham. But I think Fiddler, and I think Fiddler does need to start hitting shots to help more from outside. But I think Fiddler's already helped increase who they are as getting to the line, and I think that was a big problem a year ago. In the last couple of years, I think they're better there. The question still for me is their best lineup most nights going to have Frankie Fiddler in it at the end of games? I don't know that for sure. I don't, because I think you can make an argument other ways. But we will see. Not 14 points better than any of the other power teams. Sprinkle on Purdue Friday. I would definitely not tell you to take Michigan State minus 14 if that's what it's up to now.
I just can't imagine giving 14 with that team.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I mean, I know it's ass, but
you also wouldn't take Purdue.
It.
Like if you're betting this game, you're again Pure Options and muskox here for you, buddy, because that's really
Jags
really
plus 13.5.
Yeah.
Chris Easlick, number 1, there would be far less angst about Jonathan Smith if recruiting was going well. But when it doesn't appear you have any momentum and you're doing the 2017-2019 D'Antonio strategy that didn't work, fans will be skeptical. Smith should meet fans halfway and explain his vision. I like his composure, but it's a detriment in other areas. And bonus, Brian Kelly now has a hotter seat than Billy Napier.
No. They're not getting rid of Kelly.
No. Didn't he just get Underwood? I mean, right?
Yeah.
Isn't he going?
They'll be fine.
Kelly's not going. Kelly, there would be universities lining up to hire Brian Kelly, right?
And I'm not saying he's connecting perfectly with his team or he's doing an unbelievable job, but it's just
No, he's a penis, but I mean, like he recruits well and he'll get you in it. In the mix.
Yeah, no, for sure. I do like the idea of at some point Smith should really explain. I mean, I think he has explained his vision mostly. He wants it to be a developmental program, and I do think he can use the transfer portal to, he's said this to make this happen faster. But in terms of like recruiting philosophy and how to use it, there are some things he probably should get out in front of and really sort of explain and meet fans where they are, because I think he's in the middle of a season now, but at the end of the season it would be smart to do a sort of I get it moment. Like I understand where you're at. This ain't fun. This is part of the process, and I get why it stinks. And saying I get it to people really helps.
Some dude, number one, the Bowling Green game was this year's James Madison game and showed the essential difference between last year's team and this year's team. One crumbled and lost, and the other didn't. 2, with this NIL the way it is, a football coach needs to beg dudes for money. Smith isn't that type of dude, so someone has to do it for him. Tucker would beat the Heat on the phone with anyone for $10. Beat the Heat? Or is that your typo?
Yeah, no, that's not my typo.
Yeah. We don't have enough time for all of that.
Yeah, I think there's some more. I don't have the greatest understanding of the dynamic between Smith and the boosters and getting the NIL money they need and the top donors. It's I don't. You shouldn't be in a position where you're begging as a coach. Like I'm going to tell you this: if you're a donor base right now, you want your coach doing other things besides beg. And I know that's part of the job, but you got to decide how much you really want to support the situation. And if you're frustrated with it, you can do the most you can by giving money. Now, that said, when this all comes in-house, I think that makes a big difference for football especially, because it's just a shitty situation to need to beg for money, to need money to create momentum, but it's harder to get money when you don't have momentum, all that stuff. And if anybody isn't on board with him, then they're just not helping. I mean, that's the problem.
And this isn't like his first job. I mean, he's been in houses before and had to kiss parents' ass and kiss 16-year-old kids' ass. I mean, he knows what that's about.
The fundraising didn't used to be on you, though, as a coach.
True.
That used to be just the athletic director. And so that's a little different here.
MZA, Xavier Booker isn't that far away from his ceiling as a player in college, although he may serve a purpose in the NBA.
This is an interesting take. Because I don't know that it's correct, but it is something to think. I started to think about when I saw, because, like, I think that he has a lot more to give in college. I do. I think if he's willing to be patient and stay the course and buy into becoming a more aggressive player and with confidence and all that, I think there's a lot more to give. But I do also agree that he is built more for the NBA than he is college. Now, right now, he's not close to an NBA player either, though. And so he's going to have to become a better college player to be an NBA player. But there's no doubt, as a guy who is a 6'11" dude who can potentially hit threes. We haven't seen a lot of it right now, but he sees himself as a shooter, and he has got a natural. He does have a sort of a natural look to his shot. He does have a chance someday to play in that league. But there's a lot he's got to do with the college game. The league's not going to look at him right now and think we want that guy, and so he's got to raise his ceiling in college too.
Alex Mayer, number one, I still like this basketball team to be top third in the conference and be a second weekend in the tournament team. 2, the biggest issues the have are the hardest to correct in the portal, linemen. 3, the hockey team deserves all the love right now.
Hockey team's incredible. Off to its best. I mean, just an incredible start. I mean, just, that's a great story. And
Nightingale, that's a Alan Haller hire. He's really good. He's really good.
Biggest issue with the football team, the hardest to correct in the portal, offensive lineman. 100% right on this, Alex. And that is the trouble with it. That is a development position. That is a hard position. Big guys do not tend to transfer who are doing well. The linemen do not tend to transfer who are doing well at the school they're at. So the guys you get in the portal, you're really going to have to recruit from lower levels, guys who want to move up. But those guys don't leave as often. And they know they can be anywhere. And it's also a position, though, where I'm not going to judge Jonathan Smith's recruiting rankings as much as other positions maybe. And again, recruiting rankings are what they are. We just had a question about Xavier Booker, right? So there's that. But they're not completely off. Like, think about Michigan State's best linemen in the last, decade or two. And a lot of them, Jack Conklin, we've talked about maybe the most influential lineman on the best of the D'Antonio era, was a walk-on, preferred walk-on. You look at the P.J. Fleck era at Western when they had that great team and they had multiple NFL linemen. Those guys were all like 2- and 3-star guys that were overlooked. And Taylor Moton was a second-round pick by the Carolina Panthers from Okemos. Michigan State didn't even want. Linemen are hard. They develop late. These are big dudes, and you got to figure it out, and they're not the same diva types. It's a harder evaluation, and they do have a good offensive line coach by every account at Michigan State. You're going to have to trust those evaluations. Now, look, it's a decade in almost since they've been doing this well on the offensive line, so seeing is still believing. But it is a harder position to correct quickly, and unfortunately, until they correct it, the program only takes so many steps.
Alan Pearlstein next. Number one so far, this Spartan basketball team has been far less frustrating to watch than the last couple of years. And two, Xavier Booker is giving me Marcus Bingham vibes.
Bingham had those legs, those little legs, skinny legs. It's,
great thighs.
Yeah. I mean, when I talk about looking at people's thighs, that was Marcus Bingham was the beginning of that, really. So
it was.
Yeah. So, a little different there. That's why those vibes aren't the same for me. I do think this is a more entertaining basketball team in some ways, and it is less frustrating for people. And some of that's because you're seeing new things develop out of them. When you see somebody like Jace Richardson, that's enjoyable. When you see Jackson Kohler actually take pretty big strides, that's enjoyable. There isn't a consistent intensity to their defense and the way they move that is better. There's better ball movement. Now, they may still be lacking something. Like we're already figuring out a little bit that it doesn't look like Jaden Akins as your leading scorer consistently is something you can count on. And maybe that changes a little bit if he starts hitting shots. And they've got, he and I'll get into that later in terms of their shooting. But so there are some things that maybe will be a problem for them. But I think I have not covered a team at Michigan State that was this
matchup proof.
No, 9-10 deep, just this even. Like usually when they're deep, it's not real depth quite to this extent. Like this is real, pretty good depth, and I just think there are a lot of guys still developing, and it's something different. And I can understand why people aren't frustrated.
Richard Kane next. Number one, sick of the phrase Izzo's refusal to use the portal. It's lazy and stupid. Hauser and Walker were, and now Fiddler and Zappala are important players. Disagreeing about which players he brings in is not the proof some think it is. And two, letting that roly-poly sumbitch get a career high doesn't say much for the MSU basketball defense. This team goes nowhere, shooting 20% beyond the arc. Positives, it appears Kohler and Cooper have a dream shake. Bonus, y'all might get me to cough up a monthly subscription to listen to more Rube stories like the Timeshare horror show. GC, how could you not like that yarn?
Apparently it was a good story.
It wasn't my best. Even T said it wasn't good. And I understand. I was all over the place. But sometimes when you tell a story, you kind of need your co-host to kind of guide you a question or two to kind of help it. But I can understand.
You're not going to get that from me sometimes.
Graham was kind of still pissed about the election, so he just wanted to shit on one of my stories.
Was not it at all.
Oh.
But I will say it was a story. The problem is, again, I walk with my mother every day.
It's very nice of you.
And
Good
so
son.
I recognize a bad story in terms of the structure of it. And it's also hereditary. And so that's why I tell shitty stories. And I get frustrated. So I love your story.
Do your mom's stories involve someone saying, get off me at a timeshare thing? And,
probably not.
Right.
No.
Like I'm saying, there was a bulk of it that was decent there. I just need to get better.
But what I'm saying is you are such a great storyteller usually.
Appreciate it.
That when I hear remnants of my own flaws as a storyteller and I hear parts of my mother in you, I panic. I think, oh my God, we'll go off the rails if that's what we are.
Fair.
By the way, these are all stories we're telling presented by Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing, which, by the way, theme trivia this Thursday night, The Office. Office trivia. So if you're a fan of the show The Office,
British version or American?
American version. The British version, if you haven't seen it, is fantastic. Ricky Gervais.
I love Ricky Gervais.
Yeah, it's great. That was the precursor. And you'll recognize some of the episodes. Like the American version tried to follow it for a while and then did its own thing and became probably the best spin-off of any show of all time in that sense. But yeah, Midtown Brewing Company, 7 p.m. Thursday, The Office and theme trivia. They do a great job with trivia and really great way to check out Midtown Brewing Company and all they have to offer. To your other point, though, on the shooting, like if you look at it's who Trey Holloman is, who and Jaden Akins, who are both 2 for 16, I think, and who they've been as career three-point shooters. Same for Fiddler, who's had these guys are all above 35%, and these are all like they will get there. Water will find its level. They will get there. It is a frustrating start, but there's enough of a body of work with all those guys that this is just not who they are as shooters, and so I don't think it sticks.
Detroit Spartan, you can get tickets to the next 2 Spartan home football games for $12. Why would I want to buy season tickets? They should move the Rutgers game to Ford Field. It'd be more fun this year and more well-attended. And Bake Take, more Rube stories. I want to know why his dad was shot at. Oh, that's right. Detroit Spartan said he was listening to the show while in a deer blind. I was like, good luck, man. Then he sends a picture of an 8-point deer. So congrats, Detroit Spartan. He asked me if I went hunting. And when I would ask my dad when I was a kid, because I had friends that would go with their dads, and my dad told me that he doesn't go because he was shot at. And that was all the story that I received. And I never showed any more interest, so he didn't care. I don't know if he made that story up just because he didn't want to take me and maybe thought I would be like, oh, Dad, can we go? Like kind of like when I got into hockey a little bit and he saw how much like skates and ice time were. So I understand both.
But he was shot at.
Alleged. I mean, like I said, it could have been a story he made up to me when, because I just said, Dad, like, why don't we go hunting as like a family? And he's like, oh, I was shot at back in the day. So.
Yeah.
So that was the extent. Like my dad's side of the family, like, I don't know much about like my grandparents and my dad's background really. Like they were very to themselves people. So
you didn't.
So I don't really know many stories
further. Yeah.
Well, it's like, Dad, can we go hunting? It's like, oh, shot at. Like, oh, okay, let's play basketball. Money bag next. It's a failure of a year 1 if MSU doesn't win the next 2 games for a bowl. The poor in-game coaching decisions, awful recruiting, and lack of improvement from Game 2 to Game 10 have taken away the leniency I expected to have.
Yeah, it is a failure of year 1 if they don't get to a bowl. I think that's a fair thing to say. It doesn't mean it's a failure of whatever's coming. But
do you think people are not seeing competent football? Because we always say that word, competent. Does it look competent?
I think there's some concern that they see some of the things they saw at times in the Tucker era. Like, you watch a young secondary, and that looks the same when you don't have the depth in any era, right? But you see some things that, I think there have been some moments where it didn't look like the offense made when timeouts were used or great urgency with the clock, late in the first half. There are some moments where I understand there is things that aren't promising. None of this year is really, other than the Iowa game, has been all that promising, right? Maybe the way they played at Maryland early on. And so, I understand it. I'm not going to defend something that I don't know to be great or know to be 100% competent. What I do know is that it's a staff that's kind of either done it before together or done it elsewhere and has been well thought of. And so you have to kind of look at that and think that they'll figure this out. But you're right. If they don't get to a bowl game, there's no way that year 1 is a success.
Big John Hogg next. Number 1, MSU football is circling the drain if they don't win the next 2. 2, MSU basketball is at a fork in the road between being close to being really good and really close to being really bad. And 3, maybe we're sacrificing all of this for a Lions Super Bowl win, and I'm fine with that.
I think a lot of people would be.
Oh, yeah.
I think about that when I look at the Lions crowd. The other day, I'm looking at your photos. By the way, that guy with the camera there most of the game, blocking your view?
No, well, he went down. It was a CBS broadcast. Okay. So, I'm just saying, like, I'm not blaming the guy. He's just doing his job. But I'm saying CBS, like, it's 2024. There's got to be a better way than blocking everybody's vision when a play's right in front of us with a giant camera guys on.
Yeah, no, when I would see all these fans cheering together, I think how many of these people hated each other on Twitter the day before for a Michigan State take or something else, and it brings everybody
you would
together.
Think like that.
Yeah,
man.
I do. I know, I'm an ass.
I was just like, hey, everybody's a Lions fan. Fuck yeah, this is great. What am I? MI2
yeah.
TX. Great name. Unacceptable. Having a 60th ranked recruiting class with the amount of money, profit, alumni, attendance, what we spend on coaching and resources, particularly going after 3 stars. How do the coaches remedy and salvage this recruiting class?
Yeah, it's a good question. Asking it'll be a good question for Jonathan Smith basically as signing day happens because now they obviously like these guys and some of them are on that 3-star, 4-star level, and most 3 stars if they signed with Alabama would be 4 stars. That's the way recruiting rankings work. They're not the most honest blokes in the world in that sense, but it is fair to wonder if the whole system is working, right? Is there enough money? Is there an issue there with NIL? What are they hearing from recruits? And I think that's something where people like me need to start reaching out to recruits they've been in on and not gotten. Why aren't you choosing that place? So and some of it's tough with the top guys. Jeff Hostler, the Michigan State women's soccer coach, had a presser today, and I'm doing another column on them this week. And Texas, who they play in their next NCAA tournament game, has a young player from SEC Freshman of the Year from Lansing Sexton. She didn't play Lansing Sexton, but she went to Lansing Sexton, played high-level club soccer, one of the top players in the country. And in not getting her, Hostler said, at the time they were recruiting, the program hadn't quite been consistently good enough. Like, you think about how good MSU women's soccer is, and yet at the time that she was really a recruit, they weren't there yet, and that cost them getting an unbelievable local player, the best player to come out of this area in a long, long time. To take that to football, I mean, I can't imagine it's all that easy to sell Michigan State right now in certain ways, but that's what recruiting's about, and that's how you turn it. And other coaches have done it, and good recruiters do it, and, But, yeah, these are all fair questions.
David Jackson, MSU's O-line and defensive ends are too helpless to believe. With our ends being totally unable to pressure, QBs and the O-line being overmatched by every opponent, there should be no starters in those 7 positions on the current roster who should start next year. Bring on the portal. And baked in bonus. By the end of the year, Jackson Kohler will be getting twice as much playing time per game than Xavier Booker will get. 3-point shooting maybe aside, Kohler is better at every significant skill set. He needs to be on the court.
Yeah, I mean, Kohler is right now their best interior player, and I don't think it's that close. It's important. Like, you think if he hadn't developed or whatever, I mean, he's a really key player. He's the best rebounder, the best interior scorer, and if he can add that 3-point shot, I think he becomes a 13, 14-point a game guy. If that becomes a consistent thing, and it hasn't yet, but I do think it is in him, and I think he's a real key to this year. His growth. Cohen Carr's growth. I think that's why there's some optimism with this year. There are some guys that you're sort of watching figure it out. What can Fears become this year, right? What's Jace Richardson going to become this year? Kohler, Carr. Like, these are guys who I don't think are necessarily the same players today that they'll be in entirely in February. And we'll see how, I think it's also incumbent on the coaches to sort of recognize what works best. Like, I still think a Kohler-Carr 5-4 combination works against a lot of matchups and allows you to play 3 guards, 2 guards with Fiddler, or just 3 guards, and maybe you put your best lineups on the floor. And I think the willingness to adapt to that is if that shows itself the way I think it will be interesting going forward.
MCV, telling fans your ass early is the best gift your team can give you. I haven't watched the second half since Iowa, and it's freed up my Saturdays. And bonus, leaving starters in an NFL game during a fourth-quarter blowout should incur an automatic fine for the coaching staff. And baked. It's almost 2025, and there should be no major intersection without a left turn signal light installed.
We'll make MCV the Muskox hot take or takes of the day. I like this. He is living in a condition nobody else is able to, much like Muskox have throughout time, and to give up your team and to free yourself up, and to free yourself up from that angst is a very mature, very Muskox-worthy moment. And so, again, we will give Muskox will give an additional $5 to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. And if you want to purchase a Muskox flannel, they'll do $5 more to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. It's a very this is a company that cares about the earth. They care about their customers, and they care about this show. And you can show your appreciation to us by helping to take care of them. GoMuskox.com is the website. And again, it is Fix It in Post for $15 off your flannel purchase, just for Couch and the Rube listeners. Fix It in Post at GoMuskox.com. Leaving starters in an NFL game, like, how much does this bother you? Because I know a lot of people were...
What? Oh, the starters being in? Yeah, there was definitely, like, you could tell kind of in the crowd, it was like, why are some of these dudes still in? Yeah. Yeah, I know, but you were just too busy, in the moment, enjoying it, couldn't believe what was going on, right? I mean, handled business against the Jags. It was great. So there wasn't much of it, but there was just kind of like, I don't know why that guy's in there still. But Jebediah, hand up. I was wrong about the Smith hire. Getting a modern D'Antonio who can develop guys only works if A, he can actually get his guys to play above their weight class, and B, you have an AD that actually wants to invest in the program and not build arenas for non-revenue sports.
Well, okay, so you have to decide what you care about. And, you'd be lucky I'm not the AD because I have all sorts of wild ideas. Like me.
Well, you'd be harder than Aller, huh?
Yeah, I would be trying to find ways to make football still bring in the money without investing in it as much so I can invest in other sports and be a powerhouse in everything else with NIL.
Oh, I would dream that will never happen.
6-6 football with everything else as a power with limited. That would be me. Because that's where I would find, and it's not my fault that people care about football more than something else. Care about something else, I'm sorry. I'm just telling you what to care about. We fix that one in post, actually, if we could.
I'm sure people enjoy when you do that.
I'm sorry. Just being a total ass. I'm really, really sorry. Jebediah, I apologize. You have to, I think building in new arenas is good in non-revenue sports. I don't think that's the issue. I think Alan Haller is fiercely aware that football drives everything, that his legacy is tied to Jonathan Smith, and that if they're not successful in football, he will not be the AD. He is 100% aware of that. And so getting that done is part of his mission. And it may not, I don't think people are.
No pressure, Jonathan Smith.
Yeah, no pressure. Yeah, Jonathan, it's Alan's
only
job on the
man's
line too.
job and livelihood.
Yeah.
Kevin from Rochester Hills, number 1, Brian Kelly will be Michigan's next coach. God, that'd be scary. 2, NIL payments should be performance based.
In an ideal world, in an ideal world, they'd be marketing based. But it's certainly
like another decade. You think that'll happen?
No, but it should be much more. Right, because the problem with recruiting with NIL is you wind up with situations like Michigan State has had, where you have people who aren't on the field making the most money, JUCO offensive linemen who don't pan out making the most money. You have it's a very hard thing to do to, and I think it is better. The best thing to have is a situation where the guys in your program who stick around make a lot of money, and all the recruits know that. So when they come in, yeah, there's money. You're recruiting against other people, but you have to stick to your principles. If I were a coach and I'm trying to get a program afloat, if it's all about money for a certain kid, unless it's a quarterback or something, I wouldn't go away from my principles on that. I wouldn't bring in a $700,000 corner when Chuck Brantley's not making that, and then he's leaving. Then you have to think about that stuff too. It's a tricky situation. The situation's screwed up. I know a lot of people, the free market's great and all, but this is not the way it works in any professional sport like this. It is this weird situation where we've combined college sports, which for years I've said major college sports shouldn't exist. They shouldn't exist. Let's start there. They do, and our fierce, incredible loves for alma mater and passion for it has created this situation where we have people who are billionaires willing to give away money with zero return other than seeing their team win. Think about the absurdity of that. I wouldn't give my money to these guys if I had $1 billion. It pisses me off that there are all sorts of problems in people's cities and kids who can't eat and healthcare concerns, and these fucksticks are giving millions of dollars to quarterbacks and stuff. I don't care about that. That's a whole separate argument. Think about that big picture. Think about all the problems we have in this country, and we're like, why isn't Ishbia giving more for a backup quarterback left tackle? No, why is that
Because it's fun to watch football.
I know.
It's fun to have a good team, and then you can solve world hunger and all that other shit some other way.
Okay, but we're not doing it.
Other people have money.
We're not doing it.
Right. But there's money. We waste money. Never mind.
I don't know. I've got it in my
country.
Maybe fix that in post.
Can't you? Rest in peace, Clifton Wharton. What a run.
Yeah. First black president of a major university, Michigan State, from 70 to 78. Wharton Center named after him. Good stuff.
What a tribute. Andrew Gauthier, number 1.
Thanks.
Zadarius Smith looks and sounds a lot like Cuddy from The Wire. You won't be able to unsee it now. 2, MSU Hoops can't possibly practice shooting threes based on in-game results. They need to try something new there. And 3, at least we have the Lions. Still feels surreal to say that.
It is surreal.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Thought about that driving home yesterday. I was like, what is happening? Leaving games early now, blowouts, worrying about starters getting taken out.
I hadn't thought about Cuddy from the
Graham
Wire.
and Harry being scared of 13.5.
We're ridiculous. We're the worst.
Wow.
We're the worst. It's amazing because Harry, too. I mean, me is one thing. That's pretty typical.
Right.
But Harry's been really good on the NFL. And
and he comes on the show and we talk about the Lions. It isn't like, it's a fringe kind of thing happening here.
Right.
It's like, come on. You know the Lions. You know the Jags. Mac Jones. Anyway, Dan Campbell's Tears next. Number 1, MSU will finish 5-7. Very disappointed. 2, Lions just scored again. 3, non-bake take. I really need to try a gummy. Never taken anything.
Well, Pure Options is here for you. All right, so
I'm
Jason,
here for you. Dan Campbell's Tears.
Yeah, reach out to Jason. But if you go into a Pure Options and say, "Hey, look, I'm just like to get into this, and I'm watching a lot of MSU football, and this shit just isn't working without some help here, without some MGs." What you're looking for in terms of the experience you want? Is it pain relief? Is it energy? All those sort of things. Take people through what a new consumer of Pure Options would want to find out.
It's just that you show up, you give your ID, and all of a sudden you have someone that's going to help you out. You just tell them exactly what you told everybody here, is that you've never tried one, and they'd probably hook you up with something that had a CBD thing involved with it, so that way it gives you kind of an entourage effect so you don't freak out. That's what everybody's always scared about. They think you're going to take an edible and go to another fucking dimension. They're not that powerful. There are some that could do that, but the intermediate ones where you just get started, don't worry about it. You'll be in a safe spot. So definitely someone at Pure Options, or myself, like I said, DM me or get a hold of me and I'll help you out with it.
In pureoptions.com, you find the location nearest you, and 3 in the Lansing area, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Detroit, pureoptions.com.
Ryan Schultz, I think 4-8 for MSU is likelier than 6-6 or 5-7. While I don't think that there's any scenario where you claim a guy is on the hot seat after year 1, if they don't make a bowl game, we have every right to at least call the Smith hire questionable. Sick of being embarrassed by my program.
So there are a couple things here. One, and I mean, you have every right to say anything. I don't know that wins this year, though. For example, if Michigan State had played Indiana's schedule and started 6-0, which they would have, and then gone 7-5 with the same team, same scenario, would that have then been different? You know what I mean? Sick of being embarrassed by my program. Right there is it. That's the crux of it, Ryan. Sick of being embarrassed by my program. That sick of something stems beyond this year. So your feelings are that Smith has not remedied what you wanted in year 1, and it's tough. That's the reason when you make a bad coaching hire, things go wrong. Problem is it is hard to remedy. It's the reason you can't make them. It's the reason that the Mel Tucker hire that didn't work for multiple reasons, although I still don't know that it was entirely not working beyond the situation he put himself in. But it's why when that goes wrong, it's just worse than just the Mel Tucker era, because now the next person's trying to fix a program that's not in great shape in an era when people can leave easily. I mean, think about Mark D'Antonio. He kept everybody when he took over for John L. Smith. Kept everybody. If Mark D'Antonio takes over in 2007 and it's 2024, he loses 50 guys off that roster maybe. And that would have been a very different build for him. It's a different time. It's a harder time to take over. And in some ways, you can fix it quicker, but it's hard to, if you think there's a decent baseline there or some guy, shit. In the old days when you couldn't transfer right away, does Sam Levitt stick it out? Do they talk it out? Does he say, you know what, I'm going to, I don't know. Now, when coaches leave, players have been able to transfer right away anyway, so he might have been gone.
I'll still take Aiden Childs, though.
Over Sam Levitt?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
I will.
Okay.
Carl Mylock, MSU is a hockey school, and that is okay.
Yeah, I would urge people who are really frustrated right now to dig in on hockey. The lack of hockey we get here, though, despite people being excited by it, is telling. It is not a hockey school. It has never been a hockey school. And even though it's the toughest ticket in town because it's, it's a smaller arena, and I would say it's as hockey school as much as, any place that has football and basketball as well to offer at a major high level. It only so much cures the way people are feeling. But I would argue that Pure Options, a muskox flannel, get your ass to Munn, and that's a hell of a Friday night. All right, we are getting short on time. We have some time constraints today. Some things we have to do, and I apologize for that. We've got some really great takes still to come. so good that we're not going to just bury them. Our Wednesday show, which will include probably some Twitter questions, we'll figure it out. We'll include the rest of the hot takes we do not get to. But from this point, let's jump down to some of our regulars here with Hans, Jake, and I don't know. Where's Jake? Did I forget Jake? I thought Jake was
while
in
you're
here.
getting Jake's, I'll read Hans.
Okay.
His ones, right? Or do you want to take what are we doing?
No, we don't have time for a break.
Okay.
Jake, we will get Jake's on Wednesday too. I don't know where the hell they went.
Jake's will go first.
Yeah.
All right, Hans Jurgen, number 1. I'm tired of being a 6-6 football program. Boring football program, I'm guessing. 2, if MSU football doesn't improve next year, I will confront Jonathan Smith in a post. 3, I'm a butthurt lib, so I opened a Blue Sky account.